What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content that I'm uploading onto my channel, then feel free to subscribe, and you can also offer suggestions on topics and characters and storylines and whatnot that we can have discussions on later on in this channel. So I was going through the comment section for Fall of Hulks and World War Hulks, a lot of videos that we did just because of the fact that there were tie-ins for like Captain America versus Wolverine and a few others here and there, and a lot of people were asking for those. A lot of folks were asking for the tie-ins to Fall of Hulks and World War Hulks, so I said, sure, why not? I mean, already past the event, we kind of went into Hero Kala, but Hero Kala leaves us at a good jumping off point to basically say, hey, we could take a break for a second, or we can go back and grab a few things that we missed from Fall of Hulks and World War Hulks. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna throw these tie-ins in, and we're gonna start with Hulkpool. Now remember, during World War Hulks and Fall of Hulks, for those of you guys who haven't seen those videos yet, you'll find them down in the description. The Red Hulk had basically been taken, and the gamma radiation that he'd been storing up was basically dispersed among the Avengers, the X-Men, Thor, and it just resulted in really just like all these different heroes becoming Hulkified is the best way I know how to say it. But Deadpool was one of the heroes who was turned into a Hulk. The difference here is that instead of like staying alongside Red Hulk and fighting against Red Hulk or just kind of, laying waste and attacking different things, instead, this is a Deadpool story. And so what would a Deadpool story be without Deadpool screwing everything up? And that's exactly what happens. Deadpool grabs his sidekick Bob. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Bob is like this Hydra agent who's also part of AIM. It's like this weird situation, but he's basically like Deadpool's inside man, but it's like the worst friendship in the history of the world. But Bob also has access to, AIM's resources, which include Dr. Doom's time platform. Now, Dr. Doom's time platform is a well-known established concept in Marvel Comics. It's been around for quite some time, and it's usually what he uses to jump back and forth through time, but other people use it too. We know it was used in like Marvel The End when Dr. Doom tried to go back in time and attain absolute power in the universe. It was used during Age of Ultron when the heroes went back in time, or I guess went forward and backwards in time to try to prevent Ultron from taking over the world. But with Deadpool here, Bob doesn't really know how to use it effectively, and so he's really just kind of like punching things in, but he sends Deadpool to a predetermined coordinate. And what this coordinate turns out to be is, back in the days of piracy, back when, in the age of pirates, and he ends up running into Blackbeard the Thing. Now, this is the cool thing here, is because this was actually the first appearance, I think it was the first appearance of Dr. Doom in Marvel Comics. One of the first things he did was basically attack the Fantastic Four and then make them go back in time to capture the treasure of Blackbeard the Pirate. Now, the way this story differs here is that when Ben Grimm ended up being sent back in time, he was basically, kind of viewed as like a leader by these pirates, and ultimately it turned into a situation where he was elevated to becoming Blackbeard. Of course, you had Reed Richards, you had Johnny Storm, who were kind of like, hey man, we have to get out of here. When Deadpool arrives, he basically screws this up. And so instead of like the original story when a tornado came through and it basically knocked sense back into Ben Grimm and he ended up going back to his normal self, and then he, alongside Johnny Storm and Reed Richards, went back to the future, instead, Ben Grimm stays here. The other funny thing too is that when he looks at Deadpool, of course, he tries to attack him right off the bat, but then the two of them basically form a friendship. And so what they start doing is just start sailing around the Caribbean, robbing everybody they could possibly find, becoming like this 1-2 punch of pirates. Now, another thing here is that as Captain and First Mate, Hulkpool and Ben Grimm actually end up running up on the British Royal Navy, and the Royal Navy attacks them with a Kraken. And so because of this, while all this is happening, Bob is like, okay, we got to find a way to get Hulkpool out of here, because the idea of Hulkpool basically traveling back in time is to find Deadpool and kill himself. Now, of course, this creates all kinds of contradictory issues. It's the grandfather paradox. How can Hulkpool go back in time to kill himself if he's dead in the past? It doesn't make any sense, but this is a Deadpool comic. Logic usually never plays a role. And so what happens is that while Bob is trying to whisk Hulkpool away, he inadvertently teleports a dinosaur to his location. And I actually think he ends up grabbing him from the Savage Land. And so because this is really just like all these different organisms, these different dinosaurs, monsters, and so on, attacking Ben Grimm and Deadpool Hulk, but they end up coming out on top. They basically end up winning here. Of course, it's kind of a weird situation, but what we also have is Bob effectively grabbing them, being successful and securing the Thing and Hulkpool, and actually ends up whisking him away to the American West in 1873. Now, again, this is a point where we're still dealing with time displacement for various characters, specifically with Hawkeye, but almost immediately after they show up, the dinosaur just starts attacking people. No one really knows what's going on, but then suddenly Hulkpool is whisked away, and Hulkpool ends up landing where Captain America and Bucky Barnes were located. Now, again, this is just another example of him screwing up time. This is when things really go awry. This is basically when he starts to kill all the superheroes. And the reason why is because he's basically just preventing preventing all their origin stories from happening. That's really all he's doing here, and that's why it's messed up. With Captain America, one thing to keep in mind here is that with Captain America, as part of the Ed Brubaker run, Ed Brubaker had basically come back and retcon things. In the original Captain America story, it was Bucky Barnes and Steve Rogers trying to prevent a plane, from taking off and basically attacking the United States. And this particular story, the story of Ed Brubaker, it was Bucky Barnes and Captain America trying to stop a missile. But the fact remains here that with Hulkpool jumping in, of course he's able to prevent the missile's launch, and he saves Bucky Barnes and Captain America. So that means that Captain America never gets frozen in ice, Bucky Barnes never becomes the Winter Soldier after falling in the icy waters and freezing. Not only that, they basically reactivate the rocket, it takes off back to Germany, and it kills Adolf Hitler and the Red Skull. So now that entire aspect of history has been altered. That's it. That's the end of them. So we have Captain America, we have Hulkpool, we have Bucky Barnes celebrating in North America, but then we find out that because of Hulkpool's actions and hanging out with Ben Grimm as a pirate and landing in the American West in 1873, Ben Grimm had basically become the first president of the United States. The reason why was because he, alongside whatever forces he was able to muster, attacked the British Royal Army and started the American Revolution. Blackbeard the pirate, Ben Grimm, started the American Revolution. They won, and he became president of the first president of the United States. And so from here, again, the idea is to try to get Hulkpool through time, try to save Hulkpool, or I guess try to get Hulkpool to kill his younger self, to kill Deadpool. And so while this is happening, he's basically being sent to all these different significant eras. The first place he shows up in is Matt Murdock. When Matt Murdock is a kid and he's going to be hit by this truck filled with toxic waste, Hulkpool jumps in the way, stops the truck from hitting Matt Murdock, and he never becomes Deadpool. And following this, he prevents the vehicle of Dr. Stephen Strange from flying off the road, which of course stops him from becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. He's teleported onto the space shuttle of the Fantastic Four, and basically prevents that from being bombarded with cosmic rays, sending it back to Earth. He stops Thor from stops Donald Blake from encountering those weird rock monsters, which results in him becoming Thor for the very first time. He stops Peter Parker from being bitten by a radioactive spider. He saves Tony Stark from being shot by bullets, which is when he would have been injured and would have become Iron Man. And of course, he keeps Bruce Banner from being hit by the gamma bomb, which prevents him from becoming the Incredible Hulk. And so basically, Hulkpool has been sent back in time, and in his journey to get back to the present day, or at least get back to a day or two before the present day to kill his younger self, he prevents all the origin stories of the superheroes. He literally prevents all the superheroes from ever coming into existence. That is what he does. That's his legacy. Now, of course, eventually he's sent to what seems to be, the modern day. And we have Deadpool in a strip club, paying strippers money for their services. And of course, the two of them start fighting each other. Now, again, this is really funny because, Deadpool is, fighting Hulkpool, but he's excited more than anything else, right? Because, Hulkpool's like, look at your future. This is your future. This is who you're going to become. And Deadpool's like, I become the most badass Hulk ever. Like, I'm so down with that, which admittedly, I would be too. But while all this is happening, Bob is basically met by the arrival of an AIM agent, one of the guys from Advanced Idea Mechanics. And he's like, dude, you bonehead, you literally screwed up everything. Like you sending Hulk back in time, it doesn't work that way. You can't just send a person back in time and change the present. If they go back in time and they alter a fixed point, which is to say something that always happens universally in every timeline, then all it does is create a divergent universe. You've literally just created an alternate reality where the Incredible Hulk basically killed all the superheroes. And so because of this, Bob's like, okay, well, we got to find a way to bring him back, right? We got to find a way to get him back here. And so of course the AIM agent is for the most part able to help him pull this off. But in the meantime, while they're trying to figure it out, again, it's really just this idea that Hulkpool is making the argument that the reason why he wants to kill Deadpool is because he doesn't like the idea of killing. He doesn't like the idea of Deadpool going through and killing people arbitrarily for contracts or whatever the case may be. And so Hulkpool's trying to prevent this from happening. He's basically trying to prevent what he considers to be his darker half. Now, the irony in this is astounding. The fact that Hulkpool doesn't like killing, and so the best way to prevent himself from becoming a killer is to go back in time and kill himself. That makes no sense to me, but he ends up being successful anyway. He actually ends up killing Deadpool, killing this version of himself. And so what this story does is it results in, in Hulkpool successfully being brought back to the modern day, to the current moment. And this effectively just kind of wraps back around to the end of Fall of Hulks and World War Hulks, where we saw Red Hulk and Bruce Banner working together to basically take down the intelligentsia and all that kind of good stuff. But if you guys are interested, make sure you guys check out the Incredible Hulk stuff down in the description. I'm gonna go ahead and actually throw this video in the chronological order so that you guys guys can go through, watch the videos in sequence, and it'll all still make sense. Also, there have been a couple people who have made mention that the videos, or at least the titles for the videos, seem a little off in the Incredible Hulk playlist. I'm not sure they are, but if any of the other guys are having problems with that, make sure you post a comment. Let me know. Let me know if you guys are seeing issues in terms of the chronology. It doesn't seem like it's right or something along those lines. But if you're new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like. And yeah, it's a pretty quick one, but again, this story wasn't meant to be super in-depth. I couldn't really do a whole lot of exposition here because when it comes to Deadpool stories, there's not much deep thought going on here. It's just here's stuff Deadpool's doing, and that's the story, and that's pretty much it. But it is fun to cover. It is fun to see a Hulkified version of Deadpool. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna go ahead and bring this video to an end, and I will catch you all later. Peace.